Hey, long time no videos. Well, there wasn't much to talk about. No Silent Hill news for quite a while. I mean, there was a ton of rumors as usual, but if we made a video for every random fake leak, we'd look like big clowns. But here's a video that we hope will not make clowns out of us because it's a culmination of many rumors over a very long period of time.
Here's our theory. Bloober Team, creators of Layers of Fear, the Blair Witch Project game, Observer, and most recently, The Medium, pitched a new Silent Hill game to Konami some time ago. Masahiro Ito, former Team Silent member, was brought on board for the initial pitch. As part of a deal, Konami agreed to let Bloober Team make a new Silent Hill game if they can prove that their similar game, The Medium, was profitable. This is one of the milestones referred to in a Poland Stock Exchange article that we'll show you in a bit. After Konami and Bloober Team made that deal, Akira Yamaoka, beloved composer of the Silent Hill series, joined up with Bloober Team. Once Bloober Team confirmed that The Medium had turned a profit, Konami signed a contract with them to begin production on a new Silent Hill game? So, what's our evidence for this theory? Here is a timeline of suspicious events.
January 4th, 2020, Masahiro Ito, Pyramid Head's dad and inventor of Honey Butter Honey Toast, it's very fuck, confirms he's working on a new project as a core member and hopes the project isn't cancelled.
February 10th, 2020. Bloober Team designer Artur Lakowski, I'm really sorry if I mangled that pronunciation, halts production on his personal project Death of Rose due to a very big situation I can't talk about yet.
April 7th, 2020, Poland Stock Exchange posts the following. The management board of Bloober Team SA, based in Krakow, hereinafter referred to as the issuer, informs that yesterday it concluded a significant agreement with a global publisher, one of the world leaders in the gaming industry, regarding game production based on one of the brands owned by the publisher. Pursuant to the agreement, the issuer will receive, among others, advanced remuneration after meeting agreed milestones, and the value of the entire development budget exceeds the equity of the issuer.
May 7th, 2020, Bloober Team concept artist Anita Bielis announces the project they've been working on for the past 3 years, The Medium. Masahiro Ito congratulates them on the release.
May 8th, 2020, Bloober Team's lead designer, Wojciech Pietko, is interviewed for GameSpot about how they were able to get Akira Yamaoka for their game, The Medium. Akira-san put the headphones down and said something like, "You guys mentioned that you're making 2 games. I want to make both of them." I was like, yes, yes, yes! Yamaoka has only worked on 1 game with Bloober Team so far, which is The Medium.
May 26, 2020, Silent Hill crossover with Dead by Daylight is announced.
January 27th, 2021, The Medium is reviewed by IGN, and Artur is asked something about their next project, to which he replies, "There's something in the works right now, something big."
January 28th, 2021, The Medium is released.
January 31st, 2021, Bloober Team says that The Medium has already turned a profit.
February 3rd, 2021, Artur Lakowski says Bloober Team are working on a new big project and are hiring for many new positions, including a combat programmer.
February 4th, 2021, gaming site AllHub posts a YouTube interview with Akira Yamaoka, where he's asked what project he's working on next. His response, "I think it's the one you're hoping to hear about."
February 5th, 2021, the YouTube interview with Yamaoka is privated, and AllHub posts the following statement on Twitter. "We were asked to remove the clip, and it has been removed."
And all that seems pretty suspicious. That's why we think Bloober Team might be making the next Silent Hill game. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. So why don't we like that, Bob? This is the podcast part. We're not scripted right now. Hello. This is us being real.
Hey, yeah, we're freewheeling right now.
Yeah.
A little loosey and a little goosey. Why is this a bad thing? Well, I mean, Bloober Team don't really have the best track record. Like, I've done some research on my own personal channel about Bloober Team and just some of the projects they've worked on in the past. And,
I definitely recommend you guys watch that, by the way. It should be up in the corner right now, popping up. You should watch the videos Bob has made about Bloober Team. They're excellent, and they're worth watching. Anyway.
And you should subscribe to Voigtburger on YouTube.
No, we're not pitching things.
She is making right.
We're talking.
She's making good shit. Fucking sub to her. Anyway.
Thank you. That's what we've been doing in the meanwhile. Everybody's like, "Where did you guys go? What are you doing?" And it's like our own things. It's fine. We have other channels. It's cool. Anyway. Why is this bad news for us as gatekeeping old-timey Silent Hill fans?
Yeah, that's, I guess before we get into this, we should probably add a disclaimer. Like we're about to be pretty harsh on Bloober Team, But, we did a whole video about how Tom Hewlett was unfairly maligned for, his role in the American or
the Western fandom,
the Western games and stuff like that. And guys, don't harass Bloober Team's devs.
Yeah.
Don't harass anyone. We are not asking you to do that.
This is just criticism. We don't think anyone who works there is a bad person or is shit at their jobs or whatever. So don't be mean to people. It's just, we like to voice when we like things and we like to voice when we don't like things. And, that's just, that's life, baby. All that shit aside, that's a lot of waffling. Bloober Team. They look pretty.
Yeah.
They make pretty looking games. Why don't we like them? Isn't Silent Hill just a really aesthetically pleasing game? And it's horror and that's it. That's it, baby. What else you want?
I don't really like Bloober Team because they have a tendency to be very they don't really interpret things in their own way. Mm-hmm. When they make a project, they kind of take piecemeal from everyone else.
I think the word you might be looking for is derivative.
Right. And honestly, one of the reasons why I think the medium is really just not just bad, but irresponsible with the way that it handles its very serious topics. I can't really talk about that stuff right now because Voidburger's here and she hasn't she's in the middle of playing it. Yes. And I don't want to spoil some of that stuff for her just out of respect.
I'm only 5 hours in, so I can't. I'm taking inventory of the references and things that they've straight up lifted from other games and other media while I'm playing. So the thread I have on Twitter is going to get longer and longer as I go along. Yep. So I haven't really encountered the really heinous mishandling of the topics that they get into, but the pink flags and the red flags are there already. I can see where it's going. I am not liking where it's going, and I'm not liking the way it's being handled. And I don't want anybody to misinterpret this as me saying you can't handle these topics in games. This is off limits for games to talk about. You are not allowed to talk about the Holocaust. You're not allowed to tackle racism or sexism or anything like that. I'm never ever going to say that. So I'm just going to nip that in the bud because people have already misinterpreted that. I'm just saying that this ain't the way to do it, and it gives me the icky feelings. And not in a wow, they're really affecting me. I have the icky feelings. It's not like that.
Yeah, and one of the major problems with it, I just can't talk about it, but the proof of what Voidburger's saying right now is Silent Hill 2. It is Silent Hill 2. It talks about all of these issues in a very mature way, and in a very nuanced way, and in a way that doesn't it doesn't specifically try to be edgy. It's not doing this to be edgy. It's talking about these things because it has something to say.
And it's saying it in an empathetic way. I feel like Silent Hill 2 comes from a place of empathy and wants to transfer that empathy to the player so that they feel the despair of this topic. And I don't trust Bloober Team to have the restraint needed to treat those topics in that way, the way that Silent Hill 2 did it. And I don't like to put Silent Hill 2 on this big-ass pedestal, nobody will ever be as perfect as this game. It has flaws, whatever.
Yes.
Don't get me into that. Guy, see, he's a dickhead. But, sorry. Edit that out.
No.
No, it's true. But, yeah, I don't trust Bloober Team to have the necessary restraint and subtlety to pull off what they are hurtling towards right now. And I'm only 5 hours into the game. I can see that they are about to body slam into these topics, and I am bracing myself. It's going to be a shit show.
I have played it, and I can confirm it is a shit show. I wrote a whole thread about it on Twitter.
Yeah.
I'm working on a video about it, and just the specifics of how exactly they really messed up. But yeah, we don't have to talk about the medium when it comes to Bloober Team fucking up, and that's the interesting thing about Bloober Team. They've fucked up a few times in the past.
And by fucked up, we mean not necessarily literally the gameplay or something like that. We mean narratively and
oh no, I mean gameplay as well, because the medium fucked up the gameplay real hard.
I mean, well, yes.
I played that on my PC, 2 worlds, more like 2 frames.
My GPU when I play this game is at 100%. I'm not lying. 100%. The whole computer is being used.
I have a clip on Twitter of me trying to stream this game on one computer, and it works fine. Everything's fine. And then I go to the two worlds segment, and my frames in the stream just drop to a PowerPoint presentation. It's bad.
Well, your frames are going to the other world as well.
Exactly. I'm simultaneously streaming from the spirit world or whatever the hell Bloober Team call it. Anyway, yeah, the other thing is that, Blair Witch was received pretty poorly, and that is an example of Bloober Team handling like another IP that isn't theirs, and which I would assume is going to be a similar situation with Silent Hill. And yeah, Blair Witch was received pretty poorly, and one of the reasons it was received poorly is because how it handles it's serious topics. And it already, with that game, it reinforces this kind of cyclical notion of trauma. And it's also hinted at with Layers of Fear Inheritance, which is the sequel to the first Layers of Fear. It's a direct sequel.
I thought the sequel to Layers of Fear was Layers of Fear 2. There's a third Layers of Fear game? Damn.
Yep. And it's interesting because Layers of Fear 2 has basically nothing to do with Layers of Fear 1. But Layers of Fear Inheritance actually stars, its protagonist is the daughter of the painter from the first game. And yeah, if you want to see how they're kind of handling those topics pretty badly, I mean, just look at that game. The endings for that game are their implications are, when you go to at the very end, when you go to a room where your father has painted a picture of you as a way of saying sorry for all of the trauma he's inflicted on the player character. There's an ending where you say absolutely not. Like this, you think this solves everything? You think that this is like going to this doesn't help, and so the character grabs the painting, smashes it onto a shelf, and just kind of starts yelling at her father, and then turns around and realizes that in the process of smashing it on the desk, she knocked over a candelabra or something like candles, and it has lit the corner of the room that she's in on fire. And she goes to leave, and then the roof collapses on her, and she dies inside that house.
Rude.
Whereas the other endings, and that's the quote unquote bad ending.
That's the bad ending.
The other endings are almost like the true ending. I think the one that they claim is true.
Do they hug it out?
No, she basically becomes her father. And does the same shit that her father did by saying, and says the line, I think it's something along the lines of, they say that madness runs in my family.
Ew.
Let it run.
Ew. Dude.
Yeah,
come on.
Shut
up.
It's not a nuanced take on trauma. It's not, they've Bloober Team has, they're a Polish company. I've heard some things about the way that Polish view trauma and view mental illness and all of these different topics. And apparently they're more on the religious right side of things. And it's really sad to see how they view, and I don't want to paint every person who lives in Poland this way, but from what I have been told, it just seems that their take on mental illness is pretty old-fashioned. And it's really sad to see them tackle these topics of trauma and how to empathize with people who are living with trauma by basically saying that you're a lost cause. You are doomed to repeat the trauma that was inflicted upon you, or something similar.
There's no healing, there's no breaking the cycle, there's no rising above this station that's been inflicted on you. And
because of that foregone conclusion, you are it's kind of like they're saying, we're not going to, worry about you. You're a lost cause. We're going to, turn our heads away. It's like they're not empathizing, and that is the exact opposite that you get from Angela's story in Silent Hill 2. There is a reason you see her fire in the fiery staircase scene.
And like this is also like a common thread in all the other like Eastern, I suppose, Japanese developed Silent Hill games. Like not only with Silent Hill 2 being, you know, very obviously about trauma, but like Silent Hill 1 and 3 are also about like the trauma of Alessa and how that is like warped and how it can become a good thing eventually, and you can heal from these things, like you can move on eventually,
right,
and reclaim your life after these horrible things were done to her, because she's reincarnated and she becomes a normal teenager and lives a good life with Harry and all that stuff, and you know, it becomes a vengeance plot later, but whatever. And also, like, you know, Silent Hill 4 deals with a ton of trauma too. Childhood, babyhood trauma, not dick trauma, I swear to God.
You talking about that circumcision?
No, I am not. I refuse to. I keep saying we need to get over it, but it keeps, you know, naturally coming up. I mean, Silent Hill 4 is not the best example because Walter, oops. Walter, oops. Walter's not a empathetic character, really. He is a little bit. I don't know. It depends. Your mileage may vary. But Bloober Team seems to be treating mental illness as just like a freak show playground to mess about in. Like this, you know, it feels really antiquated in a horror game, or just the horror genre has like tried a little bit to move past this, like, crazy people are scary.
Yeah.
Isn't that scary? You know, and now it's like, oh, trauma, it is scary. That sucks, you know, but it's the people that are affected by, you know, mental illness or trauma, they're not like monsters. And it's kind of fucking monstrous to depict them as that. I think we're moving on as like a society, at least in the West. I can't speak for Poland, I guess. Maybe they're just, you know, behind on this curve, and I'm applying, you know, my Western moral standards to this country that doesn't have the same ones, of course. But then again, you see how well the medium has done in the global market, and it's like, well, clearly this is fine, I guess. What is this? Like, that's upsetting.
Yeah, I would say that there are more people starting to speak up about the problems in that game. I'm noticing more and more people like talking to me and making posts on internet forums and just talking about like, look, this isn't cool. This isn't like this. We're better than this.
Yeah.
And I think one of the real problems that you're kind of hinting at is that Bloober Team doesn't seem to understand the difference between like run-of-the-mill horror and like psychological horror.
Yeah.
And psychological horror is generally like the quintessential psychological horror game obviously is Silent Hill 2. And that game is more about rumination on trauma and empathy, whereas it doesn't look to use these things as like, you know, rooms in a haunted house that you like stare at and go, ooh, that's scary. What if that happened to me?
Yeah.
Silent Hill 2 was very much like, no, this can happen to people. This like has happened to people. You might know people who this has happened to.
And that's like haunting to be faced with that realization. Like they're using empathy to the reaction that Silent Hill 2, for example, wants to get out of the player is empathy and despair and relatable grief and stuff like that. They want to bring you to that place. I feel like Bloober Team, the stuff I've seen from them, I haven't played all of their games or anything like that, but I feel like when they present something like that, it's not to elicit a sympathetic or empathetic reaction. It's just to shock you, like a jump scare. And that's it. And it just always comes off as like emotionally very cheap at best.
Right.
And harmful at worst, you know? So I don't trust them with any themes. They can't handle themes at all. None of these themes land.
Like there have been two games that I've played in my life that screamed exploitative. And one of them was The Town of Light, which if you haven't heard of that game,
don't.
Good. I am jealous of you.
Don't hear about that game.
And the other is The Medium.
Which, by the way, Town of Light won a buttload of awards, and I do not know why.
Some of which are at the very beginning of the game that you can find.
Which is so scummy. I can't believe they put their own awards in their game. God, that is so...
It's so...
You can't see me, but I'm making the jerk-off motion. Just, I know this is audio only, but I'm making the jerk-off motion. That is, like, so shameful to do. In a game that's about, like, rape in mental institutions, to put your trophies in, like, the first room. This is not a New Game Plus thing. They're just there in the game, and you can find these trophies. I hate to say that, like, Silent Hill 2 kind of, like, ruined us for other games. It really is, like, I try not to put it on a platform, but, I mean, God, listen to us, right? Like...
Yeah, and in a way, like, Bloober Team are kind of set up to fail in a lot of ways, just because
I don't envy their position.
The expectations. Yeah.
If they are making a Silent Hill game, I feel bad for them. That is huge shoes to fill. They're gonna fuck it up no matter what, because we all do hold Silent Hill 2 on this incredible, ridiculous pedestal. It's totally unattainable, right? And Silent Hill 2 was just like an accidental miracle of a game, basically.
And this brings up an interesting topic because, it's been Bloober Team has been criticized a few times about basically making just a bunch of walking simulator games and being a bunch of really, really simple puzzles that are not challenging.
I'm really sad that their puzzles all suck ass. Like, they all
it's
suck.
Kind of crazy.
I'm not anti-walking simulator. I'm like totally down with walking simulators, but it's like, cool, whatever, fine. Yeah, but don't make a walking simulator and like call it a Silent Hill like ass game. And I'm not allowed to solve a single damn puzzle because the protagonist is solving it for me out loud. And it's like, wow, congrats. This is just a roadblock. This is not a puzzle.
Yeah, and I was going to say that Silent Hill 2, one of the things that, VB, you mentioned earlier that like Silent Hill 2 has faults and flaws. And I would say that one of the biggest flaws is its combat. Its combat is largely a foregone conclusion. Like it's repetitive. It's not like, it's cool that you have enemies that can kill you. Like that's a major part of being scared in a video game. Mm-hmm. But like the combat is just like boss fights in a horror game. Like, I don't know. It seems a little like antiquated nowadays, but it's perfectly fine because the story for Silent Hill 2 is so damn good. Mm-hmm. The characters are written so well with such nuance, and you have this game where it's essentially a walking simulator with like basically like combat situations here and there, but like the way that Bloober Team works with their games is like the weakest parts of their games are the story, and they have no combat, and it's like, wait, what are you trying? Like, how are they going to be able to even tackle this? I have no idea, because so that's the other thing that I wanted to say. We have another timeline for everything that we talked about above, plus a bunch of interesting stuff, like bits and pieces about various things that happened over the past year or so. And one of them is that right as AlHub posted that YouTube interview with Akira Yamaoka, and then quickly was pulled because Yamaoka basically said, "Hey, I'm making a new Silent Hill game. That's my next project." Like the day before it, Artur Lukowski, who works for Bloober Team, made a tweet saying that they're working on a new big project, and one of the things that one of the positions they're hiring for is a combat programmer. Mm-hmm. So it's like they have no experience with putting combat in their games. And the first game, it seems like, that they're going to make that has combat in it is going to be a new Silent Hill game?
Might be a Silent Hill game, yeah.
So it's like, this is already like, you guys are venturing out into a field that you have no experience with, unless you hire someone who really knows their shit.
Yeah, that would be
which could happen.
Lucky.
It could happen. The game's not fucking out yet. It literally just started.
I wish them well. I want them to do well. Honestly, I do. I would love for them to get anybody else writing this thing, except maybe Sam Barlow. But because I don't know who's writing these games, but man, eesh. And yeah, I would love it if they would get a combat programmer who's good. Yeah, that'd be cool. Sure. I don't want games to suck, especially Silent Hill games,
Exactly. Like both of us, I think every Silent Hill fan wants a good Silent Hill game. It's been so long.
Yeah, I'm not rooting for them to fail here. Yeah. Like, we seem bitter, and we are, but we don't hope for more things to make us angry or anything like that. Like, we're not looking to be mad. I think people think that when people are criticizing something, they're looking to be mad at something. And it's like, I'm not looking. It's just in front of my face.
Exactly.
It's here.
Like, just because we're fans doesn't mean that we're going to blind ourselves from obvious critical flaws with the media that we're playing.
Like as much as we slobber all over Silent Hill 2, like we can admit that it's not perfect and it was partially made by freaking miracle accidents.
Yeah.
The reason that James Sunderland is such a creepy, unnerving performance is because they got a guy that could not act. That's great. What a happy accident that was.
I was going to say the reason why he gives a creepy and unnerving performance is because he is a genuinely creepy and unnerving guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for real, like, especially a game nowadays that can take advantage of... I've been a huge proponent of ray tracing in games, and if Bloober Team ditch the fucking dual screen shit, which I read an AMA with them, and apparently they're not planning to put that in any of their future games.
Good, because it didn't freaking work.
But real quick aside, why the fuck did you patent it? And then in their AMA, they fucking said, "Oh yeah, we're not planning on doing it." And then someone called them out and was like, "Hey, here's a video that Bob did, and here's the video. What do you have to say?" And they said like, "Oh, we're not. Our plan isn't to." Let me read it actually. The patent was filed in 2016, is concerned with the method and not the concept of two worlds, and will not limit creativity of other developers as long as they don't infringe on the specific protected method. The company decided to patent the method as a protective measure in what is a large in scope and long development process of the game. And then they said something along the lines of...
And by protecting, they mean if you use this, there's going to be consequences, i.e. we sue you. Because this is ours. Don't copy us, which is hilarious for Bloober Team to say, don't copy us.
Yeah, exactly.
Very ironic.
But very. But essentially, they also said, here it is. We don't plan to sue anyone, smiley face. It's like, okay, well, if you don't plan to sue anyone, then why did your, I forget his name, but one of the Bloober Team people said like, if ever, I don't know, Activision or Sony or whoever would want to use something similar to what we are using right now, they would need to ask us for permission. It's like, okay, so if they don't ask for permission, what are you guys going to do?
Ooh, I don't know. Stern talking to. Definitely not suing anybody.
It's like that's the reason you get patents, is so that if anyone does your shit, you sue them.
Yeah,
it's like, so they're immediately starting off on the wrong foot with this AMA of basically lying and saying that, oh, we're not going to sue anyone when you are very clearly going to do that. Anyways.
If someone stole this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But essentially, other than that, like, I'm a huge proponent of ray tracing in games. And look, Bloober Team suck in a lot of ways. But one of the things that they do not suck at is creating interesting visuals.
They're very aesthetically pleasing games. That's like the biggest compliment that I can give to Bloober Team is that their games are freaking gorgeous.
Right, and in the medium, it's the perfect example of that. But also the problem with their approach to originality and lifting ideas is, their spirit world, which is essentially Silent Hill's other world. Mm-hmm. Not only did they just straight up yank that, which at this point, since they're working with Konami, it makes a lot of sense.
But they also stole the art style that it is based off. It is based off Zdzislaw Beksinski's art style.
Exactly. It's rendered very well. It's done very well. It looks nice. Very nice when it's running at a nice frame rate. But hey, that's a positive, Mm-hmm. They could add, one of the things that I said it like a few times now, I'll get to the point. Ray tracing is huge for horror games.
Yeah.
Ray tracing will make horror games fucking pop, dude. Like
tasty.
Ray traced with HDR. Oh man.
But
That's
the thing
gonna be
is
fucking cool.
is that if you don't know how to use it, it's not going to be scary no matter how pretty it is.
Exactly.
You know? And
Yeah.
that's one of their faults, is that their games are not really scary. They're just like annoying for the most part. Like, I played Layers of Fear 2 and I was ready to be spooked. I was willing to be spooked. If you watch the beginning of my VODs of that game, I was spooping myself for like an hour or two before I realized, oh, they only have like 2 or 3 tricks up their sleeves. And then I got completely desensitized.
Yeah.
Because they don't know how to scare people without just going bleh.
Exactly. And that's the major problem with Bloober Team versus like, Team Silent. Like, Bloober Team has an over-reliance on jump scares. Whereas historically speaking, Team Silent Hill games have not. Like, they're few and far between.
They're very
I can't even
few.
really think. In Silent Hill 2, there's a random one, which is very cool that it's random.
Yes, I know
where,
what you're talking about.
It's the
bathroom.
Yeah, the bathroom in the prison. Yeah.
Yeah.
You walk into the bathroom and it's like, I was showing that to friends and I was like, oh man, I'm going to walk in here and it's going to bang and they're all going to get freaked out. And I walked up to it and nothing happened. And I was like, what the fuck? What's going on here? And then I reloaded the save and I did it and it worked. So anyway, yeah, that's like so few and far between though. Like,
yeah, there's like no other jump scare. The only other like jump scare-ish thing that is in Silent Hill 2, I guess, would be like the lying figures being under certain cars.
Yes.
That's about it. But yeah, like, I think like, this developer, when they make horror games, which is mostly what they do, I don't know, does Observer count as a horror game? Kind of, sort of, I don't know, sci-fi.
Yeah, it's in the league. Which is interesting because Observer is their best rated game. And it is not really horror.
It's not horror,
it's like
really.
adjacent.
Yeah.
It's more like sci-fi, like future
Thriller?
sci-fi, like dystopian thriller. Yeah, thriller. Yeah,
kind of like a thriller more than a horror game. But like most of their games are horror or horror adjacent. And I feel like they don't get what makes horror good, which is really weird. Like, they only have focused on the visuals of horror and not the timing of it, not the sound design or music of typical horror stuff. Like, they've only soaked up the aesthetics and nothing else. And I think the aesthetics is probably the least important thing about like how to make something scary. That's like the bottom of the list is how it looks.
Right.
Everything else, the story, the ambiance, the sound design, all of that is way more important than graphics or, just like, how pretty something is or how gross looking it is or something.
Right. And perfect example of that point is you already got to this point in the medium, but there is a big bad in the medium. And it is this big honking monster.
Oh, God, it's stupid. Oh.
Voice acted by Troy Baker, who, dude, wow.
Dude.
Troy Baker, calm down.
Someone chill out, Troy Baker, in this role, please. They just... I feel like nobody gave anybody voice direction in that game. Did you get that vibe too? Like, nobody sounds like they were directed. Like, they were just like, here's some lines. I don't know, freaking do whatever. And Troy Baker was like, ooh, whatever.
They spun up Troy Baker like a fucking, what is that called? A Beyblade. And fucking just let him rip.
Oh my God.
But yeah, so the problem with that is that the way that Bloober Team introduces that monster, the first time you see him, the first scene that the maw is shown in,
you see him.
You see him. You straight up see him. You see all of them in every fucking facet. It's just
you see him from head to toe in plain lighting. Like, it's not too bright, it's not too dark. It's just like very plain lighting so you can fully see the scary monster they made. And it's like, why are you doing it? Like, as soon as they did this, I was like, they're showing the monster? The whole monster? Now? Immediately?
Yep.
Hello, how are you? What the fuck is this shit?
It's ridiculous.
Like, they've clearly seen so many horror movies and they have no idea about the idea that what you don't see is scarier than what you actually show people. Exactly. And that is bonkers. That is bonkers to me that they showed me the whole fucking monster.
Hey, FYI, Bloober Team, watch Alien and note how goofy that fucking costume is and how hilarious it is when you see it in full lighting, but then how amazingly creepy and off-putting it is when it is not shown.
They're hiding it.
When you just get hints of it.
Oh my God. Because you're imagining it. You don't know what this fucking thing is. That's what's scary. What is that fucking thing? And then after they show it, they make it invisible for the rest of the fucking time, basically. That it's following you in the regular world. Then it's just like, okay, you showed me the whole thing, and now I can't fucking see it at all, and I don't know where it is. And I'm just like, okay, I saw it, so I'm not scared of it. And now I can't see it, and I'm just like, where's this idiot?
Where's Troy Baker?
Where's Troy Baker?
So that brings up an interesting idea that I just had, which is that Bloober Team have faked it and then they have made it.
Yeah.
So Bloober Team were making games before Layers of Fear, but they all were not like traditional horror games. They were all over the place. They even made the only one that's close to horror in the horror sphere. It was a Bomberman clone. So that should tell you like kind of where they were pre Layers of Fear. But then PT comes out.
Ooh, changes the game for Bloober Team.
Yeah, and they just straight up like took it. The Bloober Team saw that there was a gap in the market for a game that was Silent Hills like adjacent. And people were really stoked for that game, and there was an appetite for it. So they went after it. They made that Layers of Fear, which is a PT clone. Like I don't mean that in like a dismissive way. I mean that in like, no, it is copying all of the aspects of PT that made that game what it was, even though PT straight up said at the end of it that Silent Hills was not going to be like this. So like, which, you know, that might be a loaded conversation, not necessarily imply exactly what we think it means, but like if you take it literally, like, yeah, Silent Hill games are traditionally not first person. So Layers of Fear is basically looking at PT and being like, people really like that game.
And now it's not coming out, so we'll just do it. You know, I'll say another compliment for Bloober Team. They're not financially stupid. You know, it's smart of them to swoop in that case. You know, from a very purely a scumbag business perspective, that was smart. You know,
bottom line oriented, if you're bottom line oriented, that is the play.
You know who's bottom line oriented? Konami.
Yep, and that's the other point that I want to make.
This is feasible. This theory about them making the next Silent Hill game is completely feasible, especially if you look at, you know, the fact of the matter is that they are a smaller. I don't know if they're AAA.
No, they're not.
Let's call them AA. They're a AA studio. They work within budgets seemingly perfectly fine and make gorgeous looking stuff that rivals AAA games in, you know, aesthetics alone, at least. People buy it. They make their money back perfectly fine. And what else do you want? You know, they make their games and they come out mostly on time. They haven't had like giant delays like some other Polish developers, and then come out with a busted, broken game that everyone fucking hates, like some Polish developers. So it's like from a business perspective, from Konami's perspective, this is kind of like if you're going to throw the Silent Hill IP at somebody and hope it turns out okay for not the craziest amount of money, Bloober Team makes a total amount of sense.
Yeah, it totally does. There are a bunch of implications that come from that, though. Like, the Medium had a deal, like Bloober Team had a deal with that game with Microsoft, and it's essentially an exclusive, and a lot of people are treating it as like one of the first like exclusives for the Xbox, the Series X, and they're kind of, you know, reviewing it as like, you know, this is what the future of games on this platform looks like, and like I just the idea of that is hitting me in a way where it's like, is Konami going to go the route of using Bloober Team's contacts with Microsoft and make a exclusive game? Is that a thing that they might do?
I feel like that's too much to speculate on, especially at this point.
Yeah,
because it's not confirmed that they're making this thing. We're just like, gee whiz, sure seems like this would be like a thing for Konami to do, because
yeah, totally.
Bloober Team makes games that are horror games and people buy them and they look good and they generally review well, even though they're not that great, actually, if you pay attention. Because most gamers, they just want something that jump scares them and looks nice enough and runs decent enough. Ta-da! you know.
And
it's also mimetic to jump scare people. Streamers getting jump scared is like a huge retention thing for videos, you know.
Mm-hmm.
People want to see people getting scared. They stream it. That's free advertising. The cycle continues. You know, that encourages games that have jump scares in them, which is why we haven't had a lot of psychological horror games lately that are worth their weight. I don't know where I was going with that sentence, but you know, psychological horror does not rely on jump scares, you know, to be scary.
Yeah.
And that's why we're probably never going to get like another Silent Hill game that is like that, because the market is not, you know, it does not reward that type of game. It rewards Spooky's jump scare mansion or whatever. And like Konami has cheaped out on Silent Hill before with, you know, most of the Western games. They have looked into producing these games for heckin' cheap, the cheapest, by like going to developers that don't know how to make those games that they want. You know, like Hijinks Studios, who the hell were they? You know, they made the HD collection. They were trying to get a good ROI on the HD collection, and it didn't work out because the HD collection was a steaming hunk of garbage because they went too cheap and went to a developer that didn't know how to develop a HD collection. Duh. So it's totally within their character to try to do it again.
But in addition to that, they didn't have the tools that that company needed to do their job.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is another fascinating problem that Bloober Team has in front of them. Like Konami is the problem. Like,
but I assume they're making entirely new assets and stuff because it's a totally new game. So it's not exactly like, I don't know, comparable the same way it is with the HD collection, where it's like rebuild this from scratch.
Yeah, true. But at the same time, like it's just, I'm making a metaphor, like I'm making a comparison, like just to highlight the point that Konami is also a factor here. It's not just Bloober Team coming to their own ideas like wholesale. They are also having to check in with Konami and make sure that they get these ideas and concepts approved, and that they're not, you know, ruining the Silent Hill IP in a way that Konami, you know, would disapprove of, which would be interesting because if Konami doesn't care and they're thinking more in terms of like a reboot, that might be a way that Bloober Team can, you know, have their cake and eat it too.
I mean, in an ideal world, you know, let's say Bloober Team gets the IP and they're going to make a new Silent Hill game. In an ideal world, I would hope that Konami kind of stays out of it, because the more that they have meddled in games, the worse the games have been, generally speaking. The magic of Team Silent, the original Team Silent, was that they were mostly left alone.
Right.
Like, they just put like the weirdos of Konami into one big room, said, just make a horror game, whatever. I don't care what it's about, for the most part. And they were mostly left alone to their own devices to make Silent Hill 2. There were no Konami CEOs meddling and saying like, I want more combat, more combat, more combat. Until Silent Hill 3, and then Silent Hill 4, and then, you know, like...
And then Silent Hill Homecoming.
Homecoming, you know, like, it got more and more like, we need to, like, cater to the demographics want this, they were mad about this in the previous one, so we have to, like, really shape this to be this whole different thing, you know? And it was that kind of plotting that made the games gradually worse. So if, you know, in an ideal world... I would love it if Konami would just like back off and just let them do whatever it is they want to do to this damn thing already, because Konami doesn't know what they want to do with the damn thing for sure.
Yeah.
But like, I want different writers to do this. The writing at Bloober Team is so bad.
Yeah.
Whoever is writing this stuff, please stop. Get a different hobby. It is not working out for me.
Like, it's a problem on so many levels, because The Medium is the perfect example of this, and one that's emblematic of not only their current work, but of a game that is very similar and taking huge inspiration from the Silent Hill series, which is to say that writing is not only bad and just ham-handed and wholly fucks up the trauma themes that they're trying to talk about, and just ending up hurting people instead of like being some kind of like, instead of helping. It's one of the main problems with that game is that fucking Marianne talks so damn much. So much. It's crazy.
It is a constant stream of just whatever random thought is in her head, and I cannot stand it because she's not an interesting person. She doesn't have anything good to say about anything. It's like watching somebody doing a let's play of the game while it's happening. Like there's commentary over it already, and she's doing it, and she's just reacting so blandly to everything that's going on around her, and never gives me an opportunity to think for myself. And it's super frustrating.
Yeah.
And it's just, what's weird about it is that they seem to be trying to go for, I think, some sort of like film noir-ish writing situation. I think they're trying to do an Alan Wake, basically, is what I'm thinking they're trying to do. To put a more specific point on it, they're trying to make this lady similar to Alan Wake, in that Alan Wake does, have a lot of commentary on stuff that's going on. It's not nearly as constant as Marianne, though. And Alan Wake is a freaking satire of something. Do not take Alan Wake seriously. Alan Wake is written beautifully. Like, great writers on that game. Who made that? Remedy? I think Remedy made that. Yeah. Remedy, whoever
Control,
writes it.
Also very good.
Beautiful. Great game. Amazing protagonist. Jesse is way more interesting than Marianne. Jesse also, commentates on stuff, but she's far more interesting, far more charming, far more relatable than Marianne. It feels like they're trying to do Remedy writing, and they have no idea what makes Remedy's writing good. So they just made the protagonist never shut the fuck up about anything.
The thing that I got when I heard Marianne talking was, they tried to do a Silent Hill 3 thing, but instead of text, they're just having her say everything. Mm-hmm. Because there's a lot of text in the Silent Hill games where you interact with stuff. Your
it's
character,
optional.
It's optional. Yeah, totally. But we all go through it. Yeah. It's just that when it's presented, like the writing for that stuff is done where it's like subtly hinting at you what their personality is like, the player character's personality.
Yes. Especially like Silent Hill 2 and 3, especially 3. Yes. 3 has incredible,
3 is a big example, yeah.
Incredible flavor text. All done by Nora Stevens Heath, by the way, not Jeremy Blaustein. Everybody take notes. Nora Stevens Heath did not get credit. She's a beautiful person. I love her. Wonderful person. And there's so much personality. She is like Heather's personality. It's all her. The localization is incredible in that game. And none of that personality is present in anything that Marianne says so far.
Right.
5 hours into the game. Who is she? I don't know.
That's the other thing that just does not give me faith about Bloober Team making a new Silent Hill game, is that one of the lessons that you're supposed to learn early on in film and in games and just storytelling in general, visual storytelling in a visual medium, is show, don't tell. Mm-hmm. And it feels like they took the wrong, like a Bloober Team took the wrong lesson from that, and because they
read it backwards.
Only show, but they also tell. It's like you see something happen, and then Marianne says that it happened.
They tell first, and then they show it.
It's so not the right way to do that.
I can't believe, they're the way that they signpost like quote unquote puzzles.
Yes.
In the medium is infuriating. I feel incredibly condescended to. It's super. You could not make a more patronizing game. It does not think you can solve any of its puzzles. It thinks you are the biggest dumbass in the world. And the way that she talks, it seems like something that should be on easy mode is how much she guides you by the hand through every single puzzle.
But not only that, like the pure example of what you're talking about is like right at the start of the game where you get to the Neva Hotel, and you have like if you look at the ground, you will see little arrows that are pointing you to where you're supposed to go. I don't know if you saw those, but
I didn't notice that.
Like they didn't have confidence in you to find, like, to just walk around and explore, which is the whole fucking point of a fucking survival horror game.
I also want to point out that this game has fixed camera angles sometimes.
Yes.
And cool, great. I love those. Those are cool. Those are great. Not here, because they don't know how to use them. Fixed camera angles are best used to point out things of interest. And they do not do this in this way. A lot of times, things that you can interact with are toward the camera, behind where the camera is pointing at, and you have to like rub Marianne's body real close to it to be like, oh, there's a note here I could read. Cool, whatever. And it's just never used to any gameplay advantage. It's only used to have a cool camera angle once in a while. And it's like, yeah, but there is a reason to do this.
Right, exactly.
Silent Hill does it all the time. The most incredible like shots from the Silent Hill games are things that are pointing out something and drawing your line of sight to something important or interesting. And they only do it to draw you to an aesthetic thing and never something that's actually useful to interact with or whatever. And it's so infuriating.
It should also be pointed out that there are parts of Silent Hill 1, 2, and 3 where they don't have like fixed camera angles. Like if you're walking around on the streets of Silent Hill, like for the most part, it's a free camera. Like you can also hit a button at any time to like look around where you want. Instead,
I want that
sometimes
look
you get
button
locked off.
so bad. In the medium, you can't zoom in on stuff, and it's like, why did you make this gorgeous atmosphere? And I'm only allowed to investigate it in very specific points, in very curated areas where I'm allowed to press X to look closer at something. It's like, what? Why you do this to me? Let me look.
Yeah.
They don't know how to take. They have ideas and they have but they don't know how to use them to their benefit or in the right way or in a respectful way or in a scary way. They don't know how to actually pull off these things.
Right. And speaking of respect, I will say that there is one very, very easy thing that Bloober Team can fix right out the gate with any horror game that they ever put out, and that is treat your trigger warnings with respect. Treat your trigger warnings. You need to tell people what the triggers are in your game. The trigger warnings in the medium are laughable. It is basically
the vaguest thing ever.
It is so vague. It is basically them saying, "Oh, we have a diverse team of people who work on our stuff, and we swear that we treated these very sensitive topics with care and love and respect.
Dark topics.
And please don't hate us for including these bad things."
This is not a trigger warning. This is a cover my ass warning. And we're not even going to list what the topics are that might be sensitive so that people who actually are, traumatized by those things, they can skip out on, the game because they don't want to see that shit.
I was talking to Cass Marshall about this on Twitter. Their name is RecwineGG, and they pointed out something I thought was just hilarious, which is trigger warnings are basically it's like nutritional info for food. It's like, oh, okay, you're sensitive to nuts. You have a nut allergy. Okay, here's all the stuff in here. There's nuts in here. Stay away. But what Bloober Team have done is basically on the nutritional info, they said, oh, don't worry, this food was made by a diverse team and we all ate it and it was fine to us, so it should be fine to you. And it's like ridiculous.
It's a pretty good analogy.
Bloober Team, please, I know that you're probably not listening. You probably pieced out already, but I beg you, this is such a simple thing to fix. All you need to do is put in a trigger warning screen, and you can basically do okay, here are the list of trigger warnings. Click this to see all the list, because I know why they didn't put the trigger warnings in the game, because they didn't want to spoil their story.
They don't want to spoil the story. Exactly. I don't want to spoil the cool stuff the cool dark topics that are super edgy that we approach in this game. That would be spoilers. And I think your solution is great and elegant, and I like that idea a lot of it's something that you can either press X to see or circle to not see or something like that. There. A perfectly elegant solution to the problem of trigger warnings, they're for babies,
Which is funny because trigger warnings have been in Silent Hill games since the beginning. Yeah, yes, they were very prototypical.
Vague.
They were not helpful, but there is hey, this game contains
they did it first,
graphic
baby.
scenes. Yeah. So this, you need to get that right, Bloober Team. Please, I beg you. Just think of the people that you could really fucking hurt by doing this shit. And you already have. I watched videos of people who are piecing out of this game immediately because they're just so disgusted by the content in them.
And it's up to streamers and, games writers to actually do the work for them, and warn people, try to get the word out that if you, find these topics to be incredibly upsetting, skip this, Yeah. Why is this the public's responsibility to do this for them? I don't get that. You know what's in your game. Shit.
Yeah, exactly.
And like the ESRB rating only covers so much.
Man, I think about like my dream Silent Hill game of like a game that is like lets you choose between first person and third person depending on how you're like interfacing with it. And like if you go indoors, maybe it goes first person. If you're outdoors, it's third person.
That'd be nice.
And you have like a game like The Last of Us where it's like there's these monsters, but it's also like you've got big monsters that you can't do anything with, and they're just freaky and crazy and weird. And like you just have to navigate and learn to like navigate around them. And then you go into these places and you just like look around for stuff and scavenge and shit. And like all of these things that I would love to see in a Silent Hill game, I know are not going to be done because of just how basic like the medium is. And if they're using that, if Konami and Bloober Team are using that as like a jumping off
baseline
point for Silent Hill, like we're in trouble, y'all. Like I don't have like high hopes. Obviously, you know, if you like Bloober Team, you like that kind of thing, cool. Like
more power to you, man. I mean, I wish I had like, I don't know. I'm already like Joker-fied, so I do get enjoyment from bad Silent Hill games as well. So it kind of doesn't matter to me what they do. If they do get the IP, I'll just be like, haha, lol, I don't care anymore. Fuck it up. Fuck it up.
Friendship ended with Silent Hill.
Yeah, it's now ironic detached fandom for me. So it kind of doesn't matter to me. I would prefer it to actually be good, though. Don't get me wrong. So I don't know where I was going with this thought, but that's my general vibe on the situation. Is just going, lol, okay.
Yeah.
Fart.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I want to say they could have done worse, but I don't know how.
Give it to fucking Activision or any of the that's how they can do worse. They could have microtransaction bullshit and give it to EA. Bethesda, have Pyramid Head clipping through every fucking slope in the game.
Wait a minute. Do you think that the Bloober Team Silent Hill game won't have microtransactions in it?
They haven't done microtransactions yet because I don't think they know how.
Oh, that would be so amazing if the only reason microtransactions weren't in a new Silent Hill game is because they literally don't know how to put them in.
I mean, how would you microtransaction any of the games they've made so far? What costumes? No, listen.
Oh, come on. Silent Hill 3, all those costumes?
The Medium is the first game that has a character model in it. Is what I'm saying. Like, how do you... Okay, there's no way to monetize any of the other games they've made because there's no way to put costumes in it. The Medium's the first one that they could have potentially done this with.
And they had it from a point of being like a Konami exec.
And they had enough on their plates with trying to render the game fucking twice. So they're not going to put microtransactions in this game that they're barely squeaking by with this gimmick of having two screens at once.
Yeah, I was going to say they're not even like doing that well.
Yeah, so
their plate is already past full.
Yeah, exactly. They're not going to do microtransactions. They can't handle it. So I don't know.
But it would be seriously funny if all this dev time like got seriously squandered by them trying to figure out how to put in microtransactions, because Konami's like, you better have fucking microtransactions in there, and I want a patch slot in there, and you can play it for real with real money.
Different shaped pyramid heads. we got a cube head. We got a sphere head. We got a tetrahedron noggin. We got a dodecahedron. We got the D20 head. We got it all, baby.
You know how many times I've thought about how if Silent Hill 3 came out today, like they would charge for every single one of those costumes. They would charge for the beam saber. They would charge for all the the different weapons, and the pre-order bonus would be like the submachine gun.
I feel bad for like modern gamers, like people growing up and they're like 19 or 20 now. They have no idea what a cheat code even is anymore, because all of the cool cheat codes and extra costumes and unlockable whatchamacallit, so many of them are just microtransactions now. And I feel so bad that like kids these days won't know how cool it was to just like have that in the game. The game was done when you got it. If there was glitches in it, so fucking what? Too bad. That's cool. It's cool to see those glitches sometimes. They can't patch it. You just get it. You don't download it overnight so that you can actually run the fucking thing. And there's no microtransactions. You just have the costumes in the games. You unlock them. You have to do things, improve your skill, or cheat them into the game. I miss that shit.
I do too. Like, I think
cool.
about how if Silent Hill 2 came out today, like, the dog ending would probably be DLC content. It would probably be like, oh, you get the dog key. And it's like a weird pay to grin situation where, you know, they're just trying to figure out ways of like, oh, what can we do to like add like a playability or like extend the lifespan of this game? We need to stretch. Come on. Let's just make this game longer. All right. So closing thoughts.
No thoughts. Head empty.
Yeah, it's pretty.
This also became like a medium bitch session, inadvertently.
Yeah.
Sorry. Maybe when I'm done with the medium, we can have like a little podcast about, you know, the medium. Now that I know all the bad things that happen and how bad they are.
Dog, we need to.
Dog? Okay. All I know is that I'm getting pink flags and red flags and honking awooga noises saying, you're not going to like this. Get ready. And I'm stoked for how crappy it's going to be. So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, boy. But yeah, I'm also stoked for how potentially crappy or potentially all right a new Silent Hill game will be from Bloober Team.
I would be pleased as Peach if it was fine. I'm, you know, I'm not, like I said, I'm not rooting for them to fuck this up. I'm just not expecting good things to happen. Right.
And like, you know,
who would you trust to make a Silent Hill game developer wise? That's the question. I feel like people are like, you're just bitching about this. What's your solution? You know, that's what I'm imagining. The comments are already furiously typing. I think Remedy would make a good Silent Hill game.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think Naughty Dog would make a great Silent Hill game, but
Naughty Dog, yes.
There's absolutely no way that they would do that. They're working on their own things. And, you know, with all my misgivings about The Last of Us 2, like, at least it was competent. Anyway.
Red Candle Games.
Oh my God. Oh, Devotion and Detention are so fucking good. Devotion.
Oh, Devotion.
Is so good.
I get vapors thinking about it.
Dude, once you beat the medium, we need to talk.
Yum, yum, yum,
no
yum.
spoilies.
Yum, yum, yum.
But
I cannot wait. Oh my God. It's going to be such a shit show. But yeah, Red Candle Games would be fucking the best to make a Silent Hill game.
It would be so great.
Oh my God. Konami would never.
At this point, I'd take a Capcom Silent Hill game. Like, I don't give a fuck.
Yes,
like,
yes, absolutely. For sure.
Give me a tall fucking pyramid head lady with like fucking like huge legs. I don't fucking know. Like,
huge cakes.
I'll take anything, please.
Please.
Just not this.
I'm begging for
it's
scraps.
Just not Bloober Team.
Dude, Capcom is like, we've said it before, and I'll say it again, Capcom is rocking it with regards to Resident Evil and like doing good by a large amount of their fandom, and like they've always had an easier time of it though. Resident Evil like has been goofy from the start a little bit and doesn't have like as much, it has really goofy sci-fi lore, whereas we're dealing with this like really heady, thick, kind of vague occult lore, which is harder to like parse. Which is why I think Bloober Team thinks they can get away with being really narratively vague all the time on purpose and just leaving red herrings dangling everywhere. That's not the same as, you know, leaving questions open for the player to ponder about. It's a little bit different. But yeah.
Like, people were criticizing Resident Evil 3, but what I've played of that game is like, it's not the medium at all. It's
good.
It's pretty competent, and like, yeah, it's probably short and all that stuff. And those I'm not taking away from those criticisms, but like, fuck, man, give me one of those.
I'd take that.
But for Silent Hill,
absolutely.
Come on.
I'd take that for sure. Ay.
Anyways.
Anyway.
All right. Well, we're winding down.
That's all of it.
Yeah. Suffice to say, kind of bummed. Kind of majorly bummed.
I mean, we're acting like this is officially announced or something. We're just having a mighty tasty suspicion here.
Yeah, it's a theory.
Yeah, we're not saying this is definitely happening. We just have an inkling that it is a pretty good chance. It could be.
Yeah.
All signs point to probably.
But yeah, as you know, you're all Silent Hill fans. Most of you who are watching this, you're Silent Hill fans. You're used to the drill. It's a fucking like theory, or basically, it's like it's a little. I think it has a little bit more of a meat on the bone than the rumors that have been passed around and stuff.
Yeah, because it's a big combination of rumors. instead of just like one big rumor from one source. Like this is kind of like a whole bunch of weird, convenient coincidences.
Yeah, totally.
Happening all over the place over the course of 2 years or a year and a half or something. I absolutely think that this is, I don't know, I'd say 80% likely.
Yeah, I'm pessimistic, so I'm 95%. Yeah, it's just interesting how a lot of the early rumors that took place in early 2020 were all about there's a new team that or some Konami's trying to get the Silent Hill IP rolling again.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you had all these people saying that Sony was trying to fix the relationship with between Kojima and Konami, and then they were straight up told that they were wrong. And then you had all these rumors, but I think they were all coming out because as Dust Golem, who he quit, but I think that some of the stuff that he was saying had a basis in reality. Not all of it, definitely not all of it. He was totally wrong, I think, about the Silent Hill reboot.
Mm-hmm. A lot of that's just, a lot of the reason why some of these rumors might have been wrong is because plans fall through in game dev. All the time, literally, constantly. Game dev is about killing your babies constantly. So many plans fall through, so many things you expect to happen don't, so many agreements, crumble to pieces, so many deadlines don't get met because it's this giant machine of so many individual parts. And if one part kind of flies out, then the whole thing kind of breaks down and a project doesn't happen. So a lot of these things that might have been, leaked, either they could have been a real thing when the leaker heard it and the plans fell through. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
So who knows, really? But I remember there was a lot of leaks regarding they're going to announce a new Silent Hill game at the next blankety blank E3
right.
or the Game Awards or this or that, and it didn't.
Those
happen.
were all premature.
They were all premature. Yeah. But they were right about other things that did get announced. So it's they might have pulled out at the last moment. We don't really know.
Yeah, or the leaker that they were talking to was just wrong. Or it was like a weird game of telephone where the leaker they were talking to was talking to a leaker who was talking to someone else and something got misinterpreted. I honestly think that the core of what Dust Golem was saying in late January of 2020 when he said that Konami about 2 years ago reached out to various developers to pitch for 2 Silent Hill games, one a soft reboot of the franchise, the other an episodic Telltale Until Dawn style game to go alongside the reboot. I think that the core thing that you should take away from that is that Konami was looking to partner with someone to make a new Silent Hill game and was requesting pitches from game devs. And I think that through that, the partnership with Bloober Team became a thing. And because that's interesting, because right after that report from Poland Stock Exchange came out, suddenly you have that Poland Stock Exchange post was April 7th, 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the Silent Hill crossover with Dead by Daylight, May 26th, 2020. So a month later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know, a lot of little puzzle pieces, and we're just trying to put them together and see if it makes something that looks like a new Silent Hill game, maybe.
Yeah, it's up to you guys, if you believe it, cool. We're putting it out there. I think it's pretty likely. So yeah, make up your own mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
And if you're, we're all pessimistic, but yeah, we're all Silent Hill fans. Take everything with multiple grains of salt.
Mm-hmm.
I know if I heard this, I would, be like, oh, I'll believe it when I fucking see it.
Yeah, it's one of the, at this point in my career of being a Silent Hill fan, if I won't believe it until it's physically in my hands and I physically put it in the console and I'm physically pressing the start button and the screen says Silent Hill. It's at that desperate a point because we've just been jerked around so much for so many years, over and over and over and over and over again. If I had a nickel for every false rumor that amounted to nothing, I'd have probably $20 or something. I don't know. But I'd have money. It would make dollars.
Yes.
But, it's been a lot emotionally.
Yeah.
And Why are we trapped in this unending cycle of torment, Bob? Do we
for
deserve
us,
this?
it's always like this.
It's always like this.
But yeah, to end out everything, thank you for listening to what is probably going to be a very long video.
Yeah, sorry.
No worries. No, it's good. I think people want to listen to that stuff. But
and sorry it wasn't like a super nice, super slick, super conspiratorial video that you like from us. This is also a little conspiratorial, but I mean, we want to get it out while it's relevant because we don't know if they're going to announce something soon or don't know.
But what I was going to say is I will be putting a full timeline of everything that we found in the description of this video. So you'll be able to look at everything and see all the sources and stuff.
You say we as if you didn't do almost all of that research that Bob found. Bob found this timeline out. Bob put the timeline together. I take no responsibility of this beautiful timeline.
So if it's right, I deserve credit and me alone. If it's wrong, blame me and me alone. I
relinquish all responsibility of this timeline.
But yeah, thank you for listening. And please leave a comment about what you think. I'm really, really legitimately interested in hearing people's thoughts on this news.
I'm curious. I mean, I'd love to hear from old-timey fans and new-timey fans alike. Like, do you like?
Yeah, I want to hear from Bloober Team fans.
Do you like Bloober Team stuff? Like, tell us why we're full of shit about this. Be nice though.
Yeah, please.
Don't be like rude. Just be like, oh, I disagree here. They'll be like, listen, fuck faces. But yeah, I am interested though. And like I'm also curious, like, what is your like dream development team for a Silent Hill game? Like existent or like actual dream team stuff. Like I would, I tweeted this. I would love Junji Ito to be an art director on a Silent Hill game.
Mm-hmm.
Big fan of Junji Ito's stuff. And I would love for Jordan Peele to have anything to do with any video game that was horror themed. I would love to see a horror game from Jordan Peele. And if it was Silent Hill, all the more tasty. That'd be cool. So.
I would love that. That would be amazing.
Direct that.
I really would
so cool.
like to see that.
Would never happen.
It would never happen.
No, this is total dream team stuff. Like absolutely pie in the sky stuff.
See if totally 100% stuff that would never ever happen in a million years. So that's why my pick would be Hideo Kojima to make a Silent Hill game.
Mm-hmm. If only.
I'm coughing out of sadness.
We wistfully stare out into the fog. Oh.
Oh man, that ray trace fog is going to be rad.
Ooh,
anyway.
Baby, that'd be great.
Alrighty, we've talked for long enough.
Yeah,
Thank you for listening.
Get out of here, scamps. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye. Oh my god, Ikumi Nakamura was tweeting about Miss Dimitrescu. She said, Miss Dimitrescu-sama, when I see a plus-size woman like you, I want to throw myself on the floor and be trampled by you. You all agree with me, don't you? And then she tweeted, I want to be her chair. Like, holy shit, Ikumi-san. Oh, sugoi.